11 years ago, Boston College went to Michie Stadium and allowed 516 yards on the ground, and it led to the eventual firing of Frank Spaziani. Will this be a game that gets Jeff Hafley off of the hot seat, or will things get even hotter for the fourth year head coach? All that on today's show.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome. This is Locked On BC. I'm your host, AJ Black. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs help you find the right people for your job, for your team, faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. We are now one day away, if you're listening to this on a Friday, from the kickoff of Army and Boston College. This is the third time these two teams have played in the last 12 years. BC lost one of the worst games I've ever watched in 2012. And Andre Williams then returned the favor in 2013 with 5 touchdowns as BC easily won at home against Army. Now, the teams are very different. We've talked about this before. They are moving more away from a standard triple wishbone offense, and BC is obviously on their second coach since then. You know, they've moved on from Adazio and they got Jeff Hafley now. With us to talk about our game and talk about what to look at, we have Mitch Wolf of Eagle Insider. He's our staff writer. Mitch, how's it going?
Going well. Just processing the news that another former Boston College quarterback will be following in the footsteps of another former Boston College quarterback in that Phil Jurkovec is now switching to tight end at Pitt, much like Patrick Tolles did at his pro day for BC. So it's an interesting legacy of two former Boston College transfer quarterbacks.
Yeah, as I said on yesterday's show, I don't want to pile on Jurkovec because I do feel for the poor guy, but I saw the tweet and what he said. It was from Nola Hiles of Pittsburgh. What is it? You know, the Post-Gazette.
I think it's the Post-Gazette. Yeah.
Yep. It said multiple sources have informed the Post-Gazette that Phil Jurkovec is changing his position. The 6-year senior will now play tight end. Jurkovec began working out at his new position spot during today's practice. I didn't want to even talk about this, but I can't even believe that. Now we have to change our view of that game. Now is he going to torch our linebackers? No.
Anyway, yes, the battle we all expected. Phil Jurkovec versus Vinny DePalma in coverage.
Yep. Anyways, we're here to talk about Army and BC. I got off on a little tangent here, and we saw the news right before we went live. This is a game that could go, and like every BC game, I feel like, other than FSU and maybe Louisville, I think you actually
said Louisville. I felt the least sure of,
but all these other games could have gone a million different ways.
Yeah,
I still feel this game could go a million different ways.
Yeah,
other than Army smoking them, because I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah, Army's offense is just not built to really smoke teams. Even if they beat a team handily, like they're not gonna. They just don't really try that much for explosive plays. They blew out Delaware State, but Delaware State is a very bad FCS team. I looked them up. I think their only win is against a D2 team or something. I couldn't even figure out what conference they were in, so I don't know what level they were at. But I mean, they beat the crap out of them, and then they've had 2 close games and one where Syracuse kind of ran away from them in the second half. So the way Army plays is the whole point is we're going to possess the ball, we're going to drain the clock, so we control the tempo of the game, and so that when the other team has the ball, they have a lot more pressure on them because whereas BC, let me see what BC is averaging in terms of plays per game. So BC is averaging 71 plays per game on offense. But against Army, they're going to try to get that number down to 40. And then each of those plays becomes significantly more important because you can't have a drop on first down. You can't have a second down run that goes for like 2 yards or whatever. Like you have to be moving the ball consistently and obviously like you can't make mistakes because Army they're first in penalties committed. They've committed 9 through 4 games, and they're third in yards. I think they have 100 yards of penalties, so they've committed to 25 per game. And most of those came in the first 2 weeks when they were installing their new offense. They were on the road at UL Monroe, so a lot of kinks to work out. But since then, They've really cleaned up. They also had 5 turnovers against ULM in week 1, and they've only had, I think, 3 since in the next 3 games. So they've really cleaned that up too. So against a team like BC, where like those preventable mental mistakes are that's almost the team's identity at this point, because it's not any one thing, but it's always something. And again, like Army makes it so you have to play perfectly, and Army, has enough where they don't have to play perfectly, but they usually do, just because they're so disciplined.
So let's ask the question here. We already kind of talked about what Army needs to do. What does BC need to do to win this game?
Sorry, for Army or BC? I'm sorry.
For BC, what does BC have to do?
I think they need the biggest thing is getting out to an early lead. They need to. I think BC needs to get the ball first, and they need to go down and score. And ideally, then they need to get the ball back quickly and score again, because you need to get Army out of their element. You need to get them throwing the ball and trying to be more aggressive with their offense. And that's just, even though they, hit on some shot plays, they're efficient as a passing offense in terms of they come out as efficient because they hit these big explosive plays. But on a down-to-down basis, they're just really still not great throwing the ball. Their quarterback isn't super accurate. They in the games I've watched, they always try to throw like a bubble screen to start the game, and the pass is either in the dirt or the receiver drops it. So, they're still working out the kinks of that passing offense. So if you can get Army doing that, then you have a better chance of winning this game. On defense, kind of the flip side of that is you need to be able to stop the run first and foremost. You got to load at the box, keep them behind on early downs. You got it. And it's a really hard thing to do. Really, anytime you play a service academy, the entire key of the game is easier said than done, because you need to keep them behind the chains. Because if you let them gain 3 yards on the ground every play, they're just going to keep going for it on 4th down. And usually they'll get it because they have a 260-pound fullback and a kind of madman at quarterback who's willing to just throw his body at defenders to gain that 1st down. So that's the key on defense. And, when they take those explosive plays, you got to make sure you're in the right position. I think because BC plays more man and the one high coverages, they'll be able to keep a lid on those explosives. Usually you see kind of the more busts in coverage out of 2 high shells because the defenders are coming down to play in the box. But with BC playing more man on the outside, you'll see like Elijah Jones take guys in coverage deep downfield. And again, Army has to consistently hit on those explosives, which they're, I would say, mediocre at doing. So again, BC can't really commit these mistakes in terms of penalties, turnovers, drops, what have you. We haven't, something that I wrote about in the preview that's going to come out tomorrow or today, if you're listening to on Friday, I have a bad feeling that there's going to be a special teams thing that happens in this game. I don't know what exactly, but something bad is going to happen, because Army is, I think they are top 25 in every special teams metric except for punt return defense, which is where BC is first in the nation, which is I learned the other day when doing some research. BC allows -2 yards per punt return. Now, granted, they don't allow many punt returns because their punters aren't kicking the ball very far, but that was a fun fact I found. But anyways, Army they just don't make mistakes. So you need to play perfectly in order to beat them.
Well, that's scary.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I will get into it in just a moment. We're going to go into our predictions. Mitch and I are each going to talk about what we think could happen in this game and kind of go over, if they're going to cover, who's going to win. We'll get into all of that in just a moment. Now, I want to tell you about Locked On ACC. I don't think I've talked to you guys enough about the work that Candace Cooper has done to make Locked On ACC one of the best ACC-centric podcasts out there. I mean, you got to check it out. She's out there with Kenton Gibbs. The two of them have great chemistry and great guests every now and then. Check out Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs help you find the right people for your team faster and for free. All you got to do, add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. With simple tools like screening questions, it makes it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs help you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. This is Locked On BC. I'm your host, AJ Black. If you're listening live right now, you have about 3.5 hours to get on Eagle Insider and get that 2 months for $1 deal. Mitch has got, who's just saying his previews. We got BC Hockey Blogger, who's got a preview of the Quinnipiac game. These are all VIP articles, and it's $1 for 2 months. You can't beat it. It's 100 pennies. Go in there, sign up right now. If you're listening live, become a VIP member. You will not regret it. Now, it's time for predictions. It's a 2.5 point spread here. And I'll go first in this one and pick who I think is going to win. And I was right last week to think BC was going to win. Wrong that it was. And I think I did pick BC to only win by 4. So I was right there, but I still didn't. I was wrong on the spread. So I'm going to go with Army in this game. And I'll tell you why. I'm going to pick Army to win outright. And I am worried about BC's defense in this game more than any other. It strikes to me the same issues they had against NIU, where the defense just could not get off the field. And NIU is not a good team. Army is much more disciplined. They're not going to make the same mistakes. They're going to just jam the ball down your throat and run the clock. And so I don't feel like BC's going to have a chance to get Castellanos cooking. As we've seen in game after game, it's taken quarters to get him going. And if that happens against Army, Army's going to be ahead of them before they know it. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this one to be something like Army wins 27-21. I'm going to have Army winning this game.
Yeah, I think I have a little closer. I've gone back and forth on this because I do believe that BC has more talent pretty much at almost every position group. But the problem is that every game, again, we've said something goes wrong for BC, and we see kind of just a different style of team, really. We see, like, again, you said they start slow sometimes. They started slow against Louisville and Virginia. They started fast against Florida State and against Holy Cross. Sometimes the defense has decent games. Sometimes they allow 49 points in the first half. So I think it comes down to the fact that we just don't know enough about BC to really rely on them to make any prediction. Whereas I feel like we're pretty solid on Army. I still don't think they're like that great of a team, but I feel like they're much more strong and rooted in their identity and how they want to play the game. Obviously, they're not going to make a lot of dumb mistakes. So I'm picking Army to win. I think it's going to be a little closer. Maybe BC as kind of like a garbage time touchdown, but I forget what my exact score is on Eagle Insider for the preview tomorrow, but I'm going something like 24-21. So, if there was the spread before, it was 3, which is actually what I bet on BC to get. So that would be a push for me. But yeah, I'm just really not super encouraged by how this game matches up for BC because, again, it's just a matter of what are they going to hit on the wheel of misery and mistakes in this game. And again, I think it's going to be something on special teams, but it could be one of the old demons of drops, penalties, or turnovers.
And I could see, too, just the way that Army does things. I know BC has been decent. Other than the Louisville game, it feels like they've been decent against the explosives on the ground. But I could see them wearing down BC's defense and then getting an explosive there.
Oh, yeah.
I know that sure. I don't, 12-play drive, then all of a sudden it's like a 45-yard run.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's probably because I have PTSD from the 2012 game. I remember watching this one. I was at a wedding. And it was that night, but I was at the hotel bar watching this thing. Yeah, I was miserable for the rest of that evening. It was just awful. It was an awful game to watch. So speaking of misery, Mitch, I'll have you sit this part out for a little bit, and we'll get to our picks in just a moment. So you can go into your picks for a moment and get those ready. Today, just a quick little note here. BC lost, I think it's their 4th commitment in the last 2 weeks. One already joined back up, Cedric Lott. He decommitted and came back. But in the last 3 weeks, BC lost 3-star wide receiver who's having an amazing senior season, Josiah Martin out of Texas. They lost Desmond Stevens 2 days ago, their top-rated safety. And then today, they lost their top-rated tight end, Benjamin Blackburn, who flipped his commitment over to Stanford. And folks have been asking me, why is this happening? Why are they losing all these players? I mean, the answer is pretty simple. Your team, before the season started, the BC, they were 3-9 last year. Hafley was clearly on the hot seat then, but it's it's pretty hot right now. Like when you start the season off losing to NIU, barely beating Holy Cross, getting smoked by Louisville, things are not looking as good as you might have hoped that it would have been if you're a recruit. If you're thinking like, oh, maybe they can turn things around. Now you're saying, oh, this is an issue. And plus you have other schools that are telling them, hey, they're having a lot of turmoil over there. Don't you want to come play over here? So it's what you think it is, a lot of this. And some of these guys, Blackburn specifically, he had other things going on. Like he really wanted to go to Stanford. So his was not as much of leaving BC, but I'm sure their record didn't help. His was more that he really wanted to go to Stanford. But all these other guys, I mean, they're
hard to begrudge a guy who wants to go to Stanford.
Yeah, right. That's
regardless of football.
Right, exactly. And I don't know. I would say this is going to be the end of it, but because I don't know how many more guys. I think they have 9 guys or 10 guys left. It's bad, and this is bad for the future of the program too, right? Like if you're going to bring in a recruiting class of 10 guys, or if they try to blow it up to like 16 or 17 guys and are just scraping the bottom of the barrel, that's not doing anything for the program either. It's a bad situation, and winning could obviously help. I don't know how it's going to help on the recruiting class, but Halfley could do a Dion and go and get, 15, 20 transfers and plug it up and try it again for next year. But they got to win. I think bottom line, they can win. If they win, I think they could get transfers here and that'll just fix it. But they got to start winning, and beating Army is going to be the first one. So that's my little diatribe on recruiting. We're going to get into our picks of the week in just a moment, and we'll be talking about our 3 picks and getting over our miserable week where Mitch and I combined for 0-8 yet last week. We'll talk all about that in just a moment. Now, snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. I am a Patriots fan. Things are hurting. Mitch is a Steelers fan. Not much better over there. I'm looking at that line for the Patriots and Saints going, ooh, that one seems pretty juicy right now. So I might go over there and make a little wager against my Patriots because I like the Patriots, but I also like winning too. And to find it, the app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOnCollege and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. This is Locked On BC, AJ Black here, and we're wrapping up our conversation by getting into our picks of the week. And today, we already made our picks for the spread. BC and Army, both of us are picking Army in that. Now, Mitch, I'm going to let you go first. What's your first pick of the week?
Well, my original thought was to just take a bunch of money line super favorites like USC minus 1,700 against Arizona, Miami minus 1,400 against Georgia Tech. But I'm not going to do that. We're going to make it fun. We're going to make some real picks. And I actually really love the board this week. So My first pick, we're going back to the well. We're going to do it again. We're going to go Iowa, Purdue, under 39.5. Now, if you've been following this, Iowa's starting quarterback, Cade McNamara, who transferred from Michigan, he is out for the year with an ACL. They are going with a quarterback named Deacon Hill, who is a transfer from Wisconsin, who is listed at 6'3", 258 pounds. And I don't really think he could throw the ball that well. His completion percentage isn't great. And Purdue's got a pretty decent defense. And on the other side of the ball, Purdue's offense has been inconsistent, but Iowa's defense is not the Iowa defense of the last few years, but they're still pretty good. So I think this is going to be like a 20-16 game. I don't really know who wins. I don't particularly care. But yeah, I just don't think a lot of points are going to be scored here because neither team is going to be able to really move the ball at all.
All right. My first pick is I'm going to go to the ACC in a battle of 2 ranked teams. One of them an ACC team, one of them not really. And I'm going to go with Notre Dame at minus 6.5 over Louisville. This game is in Louisville. I have been waiting. Last week we saw Louisville score 13 points against NC State. NC State has a very good defense, but so does Notre Dame. And we've seen Louisville struggle against good offenses. Obviously, NC State, who just replaced Brennan Armstrong, does not have a good offense. But Sam Hartman is a very different
It's kind of a very bad year for the incestuous trading of ACC quarterbacks.
Oh, I know. And that was the whole big conversation before the season started, was like, who's going to be the best? Is it going to be Jurkovec? Is it going to be not, Thomas Castellanos?
Sam Hartman, quote unquote.
Yep, exactly. So I think Notre Dame has enough here to cover by 7. So I'm going to go with Notre Dame on this one.
Yeah, I like this pick. I still really don't think we know about what Louisville is, because they've played some of the worst teams in the Power 5. They beat Georgia Tech, who just lost to Bowling Green. They beat Indiana, who is bad. They smoked BC, who we don't think is very good. They beat the crap out of an SCS team, and then they, on the road, struggled a bit. Struggled against NC State, who is okay. So, that would lead us to think that Louisville's also okay. And I think we all agree that Notre Dame is pretty good. Maybe not a national contender, but pretty good. So I like that pick. My next one, I'm going to kind of stick in the ACC here a little bit, but I'm picking Marshall plus 6.5 against the aforementioned NC State Wolfpack. Marshall is a very good defense. And Charles Huff, who is the head coach there, who's formerly an assistant at Alabama, he's got Marshall rolling, and their offense is, a bit hit or miss, but this game is on the road it's at Carter Finley Stadium?
Yep.
Or, at NC State. But I think they have a good chance of winning this game. I think MJ Morris is the starter now for NC State, who I think was the starter against BC last year, and they beat NC State. And I just don't think that offense is doing a lot right now. I think Marshall's got a good defense, and I think they'll be able to put up enough points on NC State to at least secure the cover. And honestly, I could see them winning outright.
All right. My next pick, I'm going to go to the Pac-12, and I'm going with Dion here. I'm going with Colorado at -3.5 against Arizona State.
Oh, it's down Arizona to 3.5. That's good. I saw it at 4.5 earlier.
Yeah, Arizona State stinks.
Yeah, they're bad.
And I feel like every week Dion goes out there, either he's going to smoke the other team, or they're going to, they're trying to beat the crap out of him. I don't think Arizona State can do that. So I think Shedeur Sanders is going to go crazy. They're averaging almost 500 yards of offense, and Arizona State's giving up almost 400 yards of defense every week. I'm going to go with Colorado winning, I don't know, by 10, 14, something like that.
Yeah, I think, Colorado obviously has the capability to put 40 and 50 on almost anybody. Their defense isn't anything to be really afraid of, but Arizona State has not been very consistent on offense as well. They kind of hung in late against USC. I think USC was looking ahead to Colorado. But yeah, I like this. I consider this pick as well. My final one is another underdog. You're picking all favorites. I'm picking all underdogs. I'm going Missouri as a 4.5-point dog at home against LSU. Missouri is 5-0, and they've had some close wins, but they're throwing the ball all around the yard. Luther Burden, was a former 5-star number 1 receiver in his class recruit, is playing his tail off, and LSU can stop a cold on defense. So I think this game's a shootout. I think getting Missouri as a home dog is huge. And again, I think getting them with 4.5 points is great. And I could definitely see them winning this game outright, because, there's always the chance that Jaden Daniels is just going to flag himself into a defender and finally get himself hurt. And if that happens, then Missouri is going to just run away with this, because I think LSU can move the ball, and Missouri has an okay defense. So again, I would honestly sprinkle money line here, because I think Missouri is going to win this one outright.
All right. And I have gone with 2 favorites. I'm going to go with an underdog here, and I'm going to take Maryland plus 20 against Ohio State. You don't like this one?
No.
Okay.
I do not. I mean,
okay.
It's your pick. You can do what you want.
After going 0-4, I'm going to go crazy here. 5-0 Maryland, Talia Tagovailoa. I don't think they're going to win. I just think they can keep it close-ish. No. Explain to me why I'm wrong.
I don't know. I mean, 20 points is a lot of points. I mean, that's fair. And are they at home for this one?
They're in Ohio.
It's at Ohio State? Okay, well then. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just don't know really enough about Maryland. I know they've had some weird games. They let Virginia get out to an early lead. They let Charlotte get out to an early lead. So they've had a bit of a weird season. And I think this is one of the better Maryland teams in the last few years, but I feel like every time they're like, oh, Maryland's undefeated, they're doing good, and then they come up against Ohio State or Michigan and just get the doors blown off. I know they lost a lot of talent to the NFL this past year. So I wouldn't take this one, but I mean, again, 20 points is a lot of points. So
I thought I was going to go with something crazy here. So five.
I mean, I could definitely see this being a shootout where it's like 45-27, and then you're good.
Yeah,
my math is right.
All right. Yep. So we're gonna wrap things up. We talked about Phil Jurkovec. We talked about both of us picking Army. You guys can boo us for that, whatever. But Mitch, where can people find your work?
You can find me at Mitchell T. Wolf, WOLFE on Twitter. Make sure you check out my weekly preview of Army. That'll be coming out on Friday. We did an AMA with the Eagle Insider subscribers. That'll still be up if you want to come hang out or throw some questions up there. We've had some good, interesting questions. A lot of questions that have been like, what's been positive about the season. So it's good to see people are still trying to find the positive in what's been a disappointing year so far, and it could turn around, but I'm not super hopeful that a big turnaround in the back half of the season.
All right. And you can follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. As I said before, we got 3 hours left for becoming an Eagle Insider VIP for $1 for 2 months. You're going to get all Mitch's work. You can see all his analysis. You're going to see BC Hockey Blogger. You get all my recruiting scoops. I'm very connected. I knew about the Benjamin Blackburn thing, and our board knew about it before it happened. So come on over. It's $1, and you're supporting our work, and I think you'd enjoy it. Please hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening to this podcast. Recommend us to friends. You guys who are everydayers, find your other BC friends out there. I know they exist. I saw them live at the game last week. They do exist. Tell them about Locked On BC. Thank you all so much. I'll be back on Saturday to give you a post game after the Army game. I'll do a quick recap of that. Mitch will be back with us on Sunday night. We have a lot to get into. We'll talk hockey too, because hockey opens their season this weekend as well. For Mitch, this is AJ. We will see you all again soon. Have a great weekend, everyone.